Welcome to the 2016 AP Statistics FRQ exam. In this video, we're going to focus on question number 1, a pretty simple question that deals with describing a distribution seen in a graph. But if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe and like and hit that notification button as well. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's just dive right into question number 1. Here's what the question entails. Robin works as a server in a small restaurant where she can earn a tip, extra money, from each customer she serves. The histogram below shows the distribution of her 60 tip amounts for 1 day of work. So in 1 day, she served 60 tables, got 60 different tip amounts. Here is the distribution of those tips. So make sure that we know how to read a histogram. So on the left-hand side, the y-axis, we see the frequency or the number of tips that fall into each range. And on the x-axis, we see those ranges. So the first bin is for $0 to $2.50. Now that starts at 0 and goes up to $2.50, but does not include the $2.50. So we call them left-handed bins. So we equal the number on the left, we go up to the number on the right. So this next bin would be for $2.50 up to $5, and then so forth and so forth and so forth and so forth for each one of these bins. So the bins are all equal in length at $2.50. All right, so the first question says, write a few sentences to describe the distribution of tip amounts for the day shown. So when I'm thinking about describing a distribution, I'm thinking about a couple things. First, we want to talk about the shape. We want to talk about the center. We want to talk about how the data is spread out, and we also want to talk about any potential unusual features like outliers or gaps or things like that. So make sure that in your paragraph you talk about those 4 items or lack thereof, and you also mention them in context using proper units and using context the entire time. So I first start off by saying the distribution of tip amounts for this day has a shape that is skewed to the right. Clearly see that most tips are on the left-hand side, around $0 to $5, and as we get to higher value tips, there's less and less and less of those. That's skewed to the right. Then I gave a sentence about center. The center or typical tip amount is the median, which is between $2.50 to $5. Now, why did I use the median and not the mean? Well, first off, without actually having the exact 60 values, I cannot calculate the mean anyway. And second off, because our data is strongly skewed to the right, the median is going to be a much better center, because when you're skewed to the right, the mean is going to get pulled up a little bit due to these upper values on the right-hand side. Now, how did I know the mean fell into the bin between $2.50 and $5? Well, if we look at 60, we got 60 plus 1 divided by 2. Now this formula, 60 plus 1 divided by 2, is not a formula to find the median. It's a formula to tell you the location of the median. So basically this tells me that the median is right around that 30th to 31st value, right in between them. So if I'm counting to find where that 30th value is, I know there's 25 values in this first bin alone. There's 22 in the next bin, which means the 30th and 31st value are definitely going to be in this bin right here. So I don't know exactly what the median is, but I do know that the median is going to be somewhere in that bin between $2.50 and $5. Next up is the spread. The amounts are spread from 0 to as high as $20 plus, but the one tip amount over $20 is most likely an outlier. This value over here that's somewhere between $20 and $22.50 is probably most definitely going to be an outlier. It seems to be very spread out. I noticed this big gap right here between the $15 to $20 mark as well. So I mentioned that the data is very spread out, but because of that outlier and that large gap, there most likely isn't that large of a spread. The spread is probably looking at, between $0 and $15, not as high as $0 to $20, but we do see, because of that outlier, because of that gap, the spread overall does look a little bit more than the actual spread of the data is. So again, nothing major here. I'm not giving any huge details. Without the actual data, I can't give a ton of specifics. I'm just trying to make sure I talk about the shape, center, spread, and outliers in context to the problem. All right, the second question says, one of the tip amounts was $8. If the $8 tip had been $18, what effect would the increase have on the following statistics? So if one of those prices in here, $8 would have fallen somewhere in this bin right here. If that $8 tip, so that would have been 3 values there, if one of those tips would have been moved over to, let's say, in here somewhere, because that $8 tip is supposed to be an $18 tip, how would that affect the mean and the median? So first, let's talk about the mean. With the change of one tip from that should be tip, not top, sorry about that. With the change of one tip from $8 to $18, the mean would increase. The mean takes every value into account, and having one additional higher value would cause the mean to increase. So when you have a value that is bigger than you originally thought, the mean is going to be bigger than it originally was. Now, I also broke it down like this. The total of all tips is now $10 more. Whatever the grand total was before this change, we're going to take an extra $10 to that grand total and divide it by the 60, right? That's how you find a mean, right? You take your total divided by how many items you had. I had a total of 60 tips. I don't know what they all were, but I know that now it's $10 more, and I'm going to divide by 60. So basically, if we just take that $10 change and divide it by 60, that's about 17 cents. So that means the mean is going to increase by about 17 cents. So again, not a huge change, but because it's only one value, it's only one value that went from 8 to 18, right? It's not like it's one value that went from 8 to 800. That would be a much bigger change. But because of that $10 more in the grand total, dividing that $10 by 60, it's going to be a 17 cents change to the mean. Now, the median, however, would remain unchanged. The current median is between $2.50 and $5, which I've already explained, but both 8 and 18 are above the mean. So remember, the mean just cares about being in the middle. So the original tip of $8 is still above the median, and the new tip, if that 8 got changed to 18, it's still above the median. So it's not like I'm adding more data to one side or the other that's going to cause the mean to change. So the mean would remain completely the same. The original values that we talked about in terms of finding that median in between the 30th and 31st value, those 30th and 31st values are not changing at all because both the 8 and the 18 are on the other side. So that's it for this question. Again, it's actually a really easy question. It's just focusing on, can you describe data, talking about shape, center, spread, and outliers, and then do you know how changing of individual values can affect, in this case, the measures of center, mean, and median. So not too bad. All right, that's it for the video. Please don't forget to subscribe and like.